Hello friends, it's Sarah. Welcome back to another Dinkum build. And here we are with part 3 of the Grand Canyon National Park area. So this little snippet here at the beginning, we were trying to decide what to do with this little area in front of the replica of Lake Havasu Falls. And we were like, we already have the campgrounds. What are we going to do over here? And we decided to kind of make like a ranger station and like a rough camping area. And when I say rough camping, like no tents, no cabins, no RVs, just like sleeping bags on the ground. And now I'm just made a liar out of myself. I did see in the dev code, because we play in creative mode here on this channel, that there was a tent that you could place down. And I was like, I wonder if it stays a tent. Well, let's try it out and see what happens. Because if that's the case, then, you know, we'll maybe do something with that. Unfortunately, it did not stay a tent. It did upgrade to a house. So I was like, well, let's just go with it. We'll make that the ranger station area and, you know, go all out with the green and all that jazz. So this is what we're doing here, is customizing the house to kind of make it look more rustic and ranger station cabin-like. I've never been in a ranger station, so I have no idea. This was all just imagination. This could, you know, it's not based on anything in real life. We were like, let's make this kind of fun and cute. And here we're, you know, doing the endless amount of grass planting and tree planting that happened in this build that I mostly cut out for you guys, because that's a lot of tree planting and a lot of grass planting, and like it gets so repetitive after a while, and I was bored. So if I was bored, I know you guys would be bored. So here we're just kind of making some of these little like rough camping areas all around the ranger station, and you know, giving you guys whiplash with this super fast sped up version. So sorry. You know, until you see it, sometimes playback, you're like, wait, I thought this was going to be a little slower than this. Also, my herky-jerky camera movements, I'm not very fluid. But anyway, so we're just doing some little details here outside, nothing super fancy. Just trying to get it to look like, you know, any of those camping areas that we've all been to in our lives. And, you know, give it a little bit more of a realistic flair. So now we're decorating the inside of the ranger station and putting out different options and different items to kind of see what it would look like. I imagine that something like this would look kind of like a bunkhouse, you know, and have multiple places to sleep. Even if that's not really how it is in real life, you know, just go with it for us and use your imagination. This is a multifunctional cabin for people who work the national park and might need to stay over, because you know what they say about national parks. So you don't want to be caught outside unawares. Have y'all heard those stories, by the way, about the conspiracy theories about the national parks? I don't know what to think about those. They're somewhat entertaining, but also kind of terrifying to hear. If you don't know what I'm talking about, there are quite a few videos on TikTok and YouTube about the conspiracy of the national parks, and I'll leave it at that. I'll let you guys go explore that on your own and see what you find. So yeah, we're just testing out colors and furniture types together, trying to see what's going to look good. How are we going to fill this space so there's not a gigantic empty middle? Because I tend to always put things up against a wall. Am I the only one that does that? Surely I can't be. I design around the wall, and then it's like, what do I do with this middle? And I don't have walls or partitions. So you kind of have to make do and figure it out. We get there though. I actually had a lot of fun doing this. I don't know that I've ever done a house decorating on any kind of a video. Actually, I know I haven't. So this was a nice little change of pace. Rather than building something on the outside, we're decorating on the inside. If that's something you guys would like to see more of, let me know. And maybe I will make a series of house decoration, kind of like, you know, Happy Home Paradise, but Dinkum edition. So I didn't show you too much of this build over here, because that's not coming out until after this one. But this is the road that we were putting in to connect the main part of my town to the Grand Canyon on the other side of the island. And yes, I know this road is not spectacular. I do go back, I think, off camera after I lived with it a while and change it up a little bit, but I completely forgot to hit record. as you do when you're, super overzealous and you're like, oh yeah, I should do this. And then you forget to hit the button you need to hit in order to get that on camera. So I think my redo of this did not make it recorded. So maybe in the flyover later, you'll see how I changed it just a little bit. But I opted to keep this area on either side of the road as is rather than do any kind of decorating because there are going to be other builds that go there for the future that you will see in the coming weeks. And I did not want to redecorate that area. So, if you imagine a road trip from East Texas to the Grand Canyon, you do drive through some deserty areas. And I was just kind of like, you know what, we'll go with that story. That's how this will get told. You're driving through the desert because you're coming from the east going west, and anytime you're driving east to west, you're gonna hit some deserty spots in your drive. So it seemed realistic. And then of course the visitor center parking lot will go where I put the road and was like, wait a second, we gotta have a parking lot. What am I doing with my life? You know what? If you guys haven't figured it out by now, I don't really have a clue. Most of the time, I'm just winging this. I might have a loose plan, and then it just, I wing it from there. So not super great with the whole planning thing sometimes, and I can't math apparently either. So it gets off. I'm sure you can all relate, but I put these little directional signs here and there to obviously point out to travelers where to go to things. And then I'm sitting there staring at this going, I don't like the way that works. So let's make it a 90-degree turn, shall we? And that took infinitely more brain power than I thought it would have to make this happen. So there you go. So I'm replicating the campground sign over here to make it look, like those national park signs that you see as you're driving through. I really, really love these highway signs that James added. It really does make you feel like, okay, yeah, national park, cool. And I probably could have gone a little more all out for this one since, it's the entrance, but I don't know, simplicity seems to be the name of the game for me these days. Less can be more, and yeah. In case y'all don't know, and y'all are playing in creative mode, you can copy what I just did there and hit the enter button and write place item with a capital I and then the item number, and there's a list in the Dinkum Discord of all the different items in the game. I use it for trees. I saw some other people doing this and then was in the Dinkum Discord and people were talking about it, and I was like, you know what? I hate having to wait for trees to grow, and I like being able to see things right away because I'm an impatient person. And it's been really helpful to get the feel and the look right away rather than having to wait several in-game days for the trees to grow up. So you might be wondering, what are we doing over here? We are extending out, we're cutting down into this tropical zone behind us because we are going to put the visitor center here. And it was this little tropical biome was taking up too much room, and we were also going to change it over from tropical to fir grass anyway, so we'll cut it out and put the visitor center here. So if you'll remember my little story time from part one, I was about to say episode one, episode one, part one, it's all the same thing. We very spontaneously went to visit the Grand Canyon, and we visited the South Rim. If anybody's been there, you know that there's two main areas, the North Rim, South Rim. And this is the visitor center-ish. As close as we could possibly get to the visitor center for the South Rim. I figured, we needed some sort of little area to designate, where you come in at and where you park. And if I had had all the time in the world and all the worker bees to help out, it would have been smart to elevate this entire area over by the Grand Canyon and like slope it up slowly with all the ramps and then have the parking lot next to the Grand Canyon like it is in real life. But honestly, in a way, I kind of like this. It sort of differentiates the areas a little bit more, and instead of having them all kind of be the same. So I like to use my imagination too. It doesn't have to be exact. So now we're just trying to, we're going to make this building kind of represent 3 different sections to give it a little more architectural flair and texture and, different lines. So this middle section that I'm kind of building up here is going to be taller than the 2 outside sections. And so yeah, that's what we're doing. It's just making that a little taller. I will run out on many occasion and take a look at how it's looking and how it's coming together. And is it looking like the way we'd hoped, or is it looking dumb? So forgive me, but it also gives you guys an opportunity to see what it looks like from far away as well. So speed dirt printing. So much dirt printing in this build, I tell you what. I mean, that's pretty much par for the course these days, with all the builds. Massive amounts of dirt printing. So yeah, again, we took those 2 outer sections back a tile just to kind of, again, break up the flatness that was kind of starting to happen. And, I've talked about it before. Different textures, different angles, different depths and heights really give you a lot more visual interest. I'm sure a lot of people struggle with keeping everything to same, matchy. I have that issue as well. And so whenever I'm building these faux buildings, I tend to look at it and go, wait, it's looking really flat. Like, who wants to look at a building that looks like that? So how can we make it more interesting? And now we're just sort of doing all the fun little detail things of adding in flora and fauna and rocks and trees and all the things that kind of bring this area alive. As Sunny and I were looking at the example picture that we were kind of basing things off of, she was like, this looks way better than the actual place. And I was like, well, I think the picture we were using was taken in winter time, so not exactly the most lush and green and pretty time of year. But yeah, I am pretty proud of how lovely we made this little utilitarian area kind of look. Now we are kind of really getting into the architectural aspect of the building, the different pathings to use to make it look interesting, give it a little something extra. I had seen somebody use these tables as skylights, and I am now blanking on who that was. It may have been Moxie, plays with Moxie. But don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure. And I really love the look of that. And if you take a look at the picture of the South Rim Visitor Center, it does have these areas that kind of look like, they have solar panels on the building, but skylights also. So we were trying to kind of replicate that here with all these things. And you saw the idea that got nixed with the use of the signs, trying to make a porch area, and it just was not looking good. So we got rid of it, because that's what you do. You do something, doesn't work, change it. It's the name of the game, baby. Nothing works out the first time around typically. And if it does, it's a freaking miracle, because that's just lucky. So I don't know if any of the rest of you have ever built a building like this, where it's kind of symmetrical on one end, and then you build one end and you get it looking perfect, and then you come over to the other side to build it, and you didn't do any counting, you didn't pay attention to how you did things, and so you try to make it the same, and then it doesn't look the same at all. Yeah, we did that. So then we had to spend a lot of time fixing it and matching them up, because it was a pretty noticeable difference. And we were just like, how in the world did we mess this up so bad? But I think I show that here in just a little bit. It's pretty comical. Sunny and I wish I'd kept the actual audio in, because we were just like, what's wrong here? Why does it look so different? Hot tip, if you want to regrass an area, lay down pathing and then pull it up rather than doing the shovel. I feel like it's a little faster. So that's what I did back there to make that tropical biome more of the evergreen fir grass. So I believe it's about right here. Yep, this is where we were like, this is not looking right. What did we do wrong? And I actually cut out quite a large section where we redid it a couple of times and we could not get it to work. And I was just like, oh my Lord, why are we so dumb? Why is this so hard? We cannot do this and match it up to save our lives. What are we even doing with our lives here? We eventually figured out, and we get on the right track, and it all works out, and things look good. So, even the best of us, we don't know what we're doing half the time, just FYI. And we like to put glow buttons in a lot of our builds because it adds a lot of subtle light, and we put the fencing around it to kind of hide them because obviously, flowers don't grow on top of buildings. But at nighttime, it definitely illuminates that area without really having to see the flowers. So glow buttons, great light source. You can hide them all over your build and really add to that. Laying down pathing and just sort of, rounding out some rough edges. All the little things. And I realized, okay, got to change out the signs because I used a different wood. Where it was like, this is not a parking space. So that's what that was about. Every parking lot's got to have some lights. And again, just more trees. Trees everywhere. I love trees. Every build I do is probably going to be just full of trees. All right, let's do a little walkthrough of what we did. No animals were harmed in the making of this video, by the way, even though I kind of run over them here a little bit. Yeah, you can kind of see how I changed up the road just a little, adding some extra on that diagonal. And, you get to witness my herky-jerky driving skills. Also, I was experiencing some lag at this point in the game, and I can't tell if it was the game or if it was my controller acting up. So I do apologize. It's very erratic on my end. This is the visitor center for the Grand Canyon. Little museums and shops and all kinds of things inside here. If you ever get a chance to go, you should. This is definitely a natural wonder you shouldn't miss in your lifetime if you get a chance. Once again, I thank Sunny Ann for coming over and helping me with this. She's always willing to lend a hand whenever I ask for it, and we have a lot of fun building these things and talking and chatting and just being silly. So, as I always say, grab a friend and go play Dinkum together. It'll put a smile on your face, for sure. right toggle button on my controller just kept having some issues. So yeah, was not a fan of that. And this is the pathway over to the campground. You guys have already seen this in previous videos, and if you haven't, I will put a link to the other two, part 1 and 2, in the description below, and also a little card up there in the right-hand corner, hopefully. But yeah, you should take a look at those videos and our builds for those. And aerial view time. I'm really happy with how all of this turned out and came together, and how all the areas just have their own little space, but they all kind of work as one. It was definitely a labor of love, I got to tell you. That canyon was something else to try to put together. The endless amount of dirt printing sessions that we did will haunt me for days, weeks, months going forward. I think the campground area is probably my favorite, believe it or not. After all the work of building the canyon itself, I don't know, this area over here just is just so fun and different than anything else I've ever built, really. I don't typically do nature builds like this very well, and I was very happy with how this all came together. So, and in the coming days, weeks, we will obviously probably be doing some things to add on to this and make it, more rounded out. And once we do, we'll bring you guys along. Well, guys, that pretty much concludes our Grand Canyon build. Thank you guys so much for watching, for being here on this little journey with us. I hope you guys enjoyed it and it inspired you. And as always, be kind to yourselves and be kind to others. I'll catch you guys in the next one.